On this, I'm joined by former Israeli government spokesperson Eylon Levy. Eylon, great to have you on the show. Firstly, I just want to know if you want to react. We just literally heard from our first guest there about the humanitarian situation in Gaza. Is this blockade going to be lifted? People are desperate.
It is important that aid reach the people who need it, but not if Hamas can steal it. And that's the problem we're dealing with now. The humanitarian aid has been Hamas's main financial pipeline. That is how Hamas is surviving. Recently, it hasn't been able to pay its soldiers because it hasn't been able to tax the goods. Israel, let's be clear, under international law, is not required to facilitate supplies into Gaza that an enemy military is hijacking in order to finance its war machine. And anyone who seriously cares about the humanitarian situation in Gaza needs to be clear that this war has to end with the immediate release of the hostages and Hamas stepping down from power, because a jihadi regime remaining in power in Gaza is bad for us in Israel and also bad for the Palestinians.
Eylon, Netanyahu has so far failed to achieve his goal of destroying Hamas or of returning all of the hostages. He says Israel's plan to capture all of the Gaza Strip will be intensive. How will this new military strategy be carried out?
Well, the strategy has changed. For the last year and a half, Israel was playing a game of cat and mouse with Hamas. It sent soldiers into Gaza, they cleared an area of Hamas, and then withdrew, and Hamas came back. And it should be clear to everyone, that's no way to permanently remove Hamas from power. So the new Israeli military strategy says, this war has gone on for too long, it must end, and it must end with Hamas's defeat. So Israel will send in the military, fight Hamas, and then hold territory so Hamas cannot recapture it. And when Israel is able to capture the entire territory and remove Hamas from power, then we can start to talk about a day after plan once the regime that perpetrated the October 7th massacre and is still holding 24 hostages who are still alive is removed from power. Then we can move on.
Eylon, surveys have shown dwindling public support for the war among Israelis. And we also saw 1,200 Israeli pilots have signed an open letter arguing the war served mainly political and personal interests and not security ones. Do you agree with this assessment? Is this for political gain?
There is a lot of frustration in Israel at how long this war has been going on, and everyone in Israel is paying a terrible price. Let's remember, we still have rocket sirens every single day. But everyone in Israel agrees that this war has to end with Hamas removed from power and the hostages returned. No one wants to give up on the hostages who are being starved and tortured and executed by Hamas. And no one in Israel thinks we can live next to the Hamas jihadi regime, because Hamas's reason for existing is to wage forever jihad until Israel is destroyed. And if Israel leaves the October 7th war machine in power, it's only a matter of time until the next October 7th massacre happens. So there is a lot of disagreement in Israel about how we should achieve those goals, but there is broad unity in the country that we have to achieve them. We have to bring the hostages home, and we have to get people back to the homes they were forced to flee on October 7th. And the only way they can do that is if the Hamas terrorist regime is no longer their neighbor.
So, Eylon, you say there that there is these growing divisions within Israel, and renewed fighting hasn't forced Hamas to surrender, and they have described the plan as a tool of political blackmail. That is what Hamas is saying. What is your response to them?
Israel wants Hamas to surrender, and let's remember, this war can end tomorrow if Hamas surrenders and releases the hostages. This war could have ended on October 8th, 2023, if Hamas had surrendered and released the hostages. And Hamas refuses to end the war because it wants to end this war in power, free to continue terrorizing Israelis and free to continue oppressing the people of Gaza. I don't know if you've covered the horrific executions of dissidents inside Gaza who are bravely standing up and saying Hamas bara bara, Hamas out out. So there is disagreement within Israel about how those goals should be achieved. But everyone understands Hamas has to go. There is no way that the Hamas regime remains in power and we move forward to a future of peace. Hamas has to go.
Eylon, what's Israel's plan for Gaza's future?
Well, the day after means the day after Hamas. And just like the Marshall Plan, which rebuilt Europe after the Second World War, wasn't devised for years until after the defeat of Nazi Germany, first Hamas has to be removed from power. Israel would like to see the moderate Arab states in the region take responsibility for governing Gaza, because there's a lot of work to do. First of all, de-radicalization. The only way we're going to have sustainable peace is if the people of Gaza, who celebrated on the streets when the October 7th massacre happened, are de-radicalized and disavow Hamas's path of jihad. And there, I think Saudi Arabia and the UAE, which have their own experience with de-radicalization, have a very important role to play in regional stability. But they need to decide they want to play it.
Former Israeli government spokesman Eylon Levy, thank you so much for joining me.
Glad to join you as always.